In Ukraine, things are only getting worse. Yesterday, we theoretically had a truce. That truce was broken immediately, apparently by both sides. But look, I'm from the West, so I want to support the protesters who support the West, right? And I think Russia has taken a lot of very questionable actions in regards to its own citizens. And so then now they've got militias going around whipping people and assaulting them. So I got no love for Russia in that case. But when you look at this in its entirety, there's a lot of fault on both sides, and you've got to be fair about it. So first, let me read to you from the Associated Press. Protesters tossed firebombs and advanced upon police lines Thursday in Ukraine's embattled capital. Government snipers shot back, killing at least 70 people and wounding hundreds of others, according to a protest doctor. Okay, now, look, the government snipers are going to show you in a little bit, and that is unbelievable and totally outrageous and unacceptable, right? At the same time, protesters are tossing firebombs, and apparently they thought that they didn't have any trust in the truce, so they immediately advanced on the police. Well, then that means you broke the truce. You got to call it what it is, even if they're on your side, okay? So, look, how many people have died so far? Just in these last couple of days, now 101 people have died in just a couple of days in this week. The protests were peaceful for 3 months. They are no longer. Now, here's one other fact that goes against the protesters. 67 police were captured, right? Now, if you're a cop in Ukraine and you're on the side of Yanukovych's government and you got Molotov cocktails coming down on you and 67 of the guys were taken hostage, might that give you a little bit of, impetus to become more violent? I think it might. So I'm not excusing their actions at all, because you're about to see how terrible they were, okay? But don't push them. Why are we getting into this terrible violence? And maybe it's easy for me to say, being so far removed from all of it, right? And I know that in the West, we're supposed to just say, yeah, rah, rah, protesters. But it seems like there is significant violent action on both sides. Now, you want to see significant violent action. First of all, of course, what does the government of Ukraine do? The Interior Ministry later said that law enforcers were armed as part of an anti-terrorist operation. Of course, anytime that you want to attack anybody, you call them terrorists and you say you're the anti-terrorist. Now, let's see what these so-called anti-terrorists did. Now, I'm going to show you a video here of police snipers firing into the crowds, okay? Now, who are the terrorists in this case? Look at this.
О, дивіться, дивіться. Снайперська.
Рука, вон лежить.
Ні, це снайперська. Блін, не стріляй, урод!
Yeah, that's indisputably snipers firing into crowds. And it's not a surprise that 100 people have died if you've got not just, hey, cops saying, whoa, look, I'm under attack here and I got to defend myself. I'm worried I'm going to get captured, and then they take lethal action that's too far. No, that's premeditated. You get on a hilltop, get on a sniper position, and assassinate people, execute people. So is that offense worse? Yes. Look, as the state, you have an extra responsibility to make sure that you protect your people, even if they're in protest against you, and even sometimes when they're violent. And you certainly have a responsibility not to sniper them to death. So I'm not saying things are equal, okay? But on the other hand, as I look at the protesters and how they will not, relent, if they don't want to leave the square and it's civil disobedience and they're going to get dragged down, they're going to get hurt, then I'm 1,000,000% on their side saying, stay strong, brothers. But if you're throwing Molotov cocktails and capturing cops, they're going to shoot back. So both sides are frustrating. Now, in order to egg on the Ukrainian leadership, the Russians step in. They only make things much worse. Here is Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev. He says, we need partners that are in good shape and a Ukrainian government that is legitimate and effective, that this government is not used like a rag for wiping off feet. In other words, he's saying to them, what are you going to do? Let these guys run over you? You better make sure that you're strong, right? they're egging him on like he's a child. And I don't know, maybe he is. Maybe the Ukrainian president is easily egged on, right? And so he continues by saying Russia could deal only with legitimate and effective authorities, a leadership which people aren't wiping their feet on like a doormat. So obviously the Russians are not helping the situation. Instead of trying to calm everybody down, what they're doing instead is telling the Ukrainian leadership, you better not get treated like a doormat. Show me what a man you are. And by the way, it's not just empty talk. They're saying, we're not going to give you the extra $2 billion we were about to give you until you show us what kind of a man you are. Right? So this is a disaster for everybody involved. I, for whatever it's worth, urge peace. And usually that is far, far more effective. The model of Mandela, Gandhi, MLK, civil disobedience, I'm totally in favor of. But this violence is completely out of control in Ukraine. And I'm now worried, not just for the protesters, but for the whole country, because as you look at some of these pictures and you see the fires burning, you begin to think that they might be inching towards civil war. And that's just incredibly depressing.